Mr. Turner, for what purpose?
The gentleman yield for some questions.
The gentleman yield for questions.
Yes.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Chairman Anchia. I want to walk through a couple other districts that we talked about in the committee process that I think are a good example of why we should adopt your amendment to strike the enacting clause. Do you recall the discussion in committee about Bell County as it's treated in this bill?
I do, and I couldn't believe it. We sat in the committee, and a committee amendment was offered with no warning, and a member of the committee laid out that that amendment, couldn't answer any questions about it. We asked what the racial impact was of this amendment. We're told they didn't know. And then when you pointed out to the member of the committee that in fact their choice to draw a line down a traditional African-American community of interest in Killeen was problematic, and you showed them that, they went ahead and voted it anyway.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've distributed to every member's desk a copy of the Bell County map shaded by African-American population, and clearly shows the line. Is this the line, I'll phrase it in the form of a question, is this the line you're talking about that cuts north to south, dividing the African-American community in Killeen between House Districts 55 and 54? Is that we're talking about the same thing?
Yeah, I've seen that map on my desk, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I believe Representative Davis has an amendment later to correct that if we don't adopt your amendment. Let me ask you also about House District 90 in Tarrant County. I know it's something that Malk has been very involved in through the years. This is Representative Romero's district. The House Bill 1 would appear to retrogress Representative Romero's district by lowering his Hispanic CVAP to around 48% and his SSVR to around 40%. Would you agree that that is a real problem for Latino voters in Tarrant County?
I do. That's another district that is among the most problematic in this map. Literally a court in 2017, and keep in mind, we had multiple iterations of a House map. In 2011, it was found to be intentionally discriminatory, came back in 2013. There was another lawsuit in 2013 that was decided in 2017, and Malk was found to be a prevailing party. And the court said, no, you have retrogressed District 90 and you need to draw it in this way, right? So the court has literally drawn this district, and yet the underlying map retrogresses the Hispanic community, including historic communities of interest in Tarrant County, by reducing the citizen voting age population and voting age population of District 90.
Absolutely. And then last, let me ask you about House District 65 in Denton County. Am I right that is a majority minority district that is performing as an effective coalition district where minority voters are able to elect the candidate of their choice under the benchmark plan?
I believe it is.
Yeah, and under House Bill 1, is that effective coalition district preserved, or is it destroyed by dismantling it and cracking minority voters into multiple districts?
The latter. It's completely dismantled.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Anchia. I hope the body will adopt your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman's time's expired.
I'm happy to extend.
Question of Chairman Hunter after he's done. For questions.
Let me recognize him first. I'm sorry.
Sure.
The chair recognizes Mr. Hunter in opposition to the amendment. Mr. Turner, for what purpose?
The gentleman yield for questions.
Gentleman yield for questions.
Let me respond, and then I will.
Thank you.
Members, so everybody's clear, this is what we call strike the enacting clause. What this does is end the bill. So you'll have a lot of discussion, but what this is to end HB 1. So that's the purpose of this amendment. Now, I do want to indicate to everybody that you have a lot of amendments and there'll be opportunities to ask questions. And I'm more than happy to take questions from Representative Turner.
The gentleman yield for questions. The gentleman yields.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Hunter. Chairman Hunter, in the committee process, you'll recall that a number of us on the committee asked for the opportunity to hear from expert witnesses during the committee hearing. Were we ever able to hear from some invited expert witnesses?
Well, let me clarify. We had members ask, both Republican Democrats, for invited testimony, and it was never objected to, but on certain days.
So just for the record, to be clear, why is it that the House Democratic Caucus, the Legislative Black Caucus, Mexican American Legislative Caucus, MALDEF, and other groups who had lawyers and other subject matter experts on redistricting were unable to secure an invitation for their experts to testify before the committee?
Okay. I think I heard just said that you sent the joint letter asking for invited testimony and why there was no invited testimony. Was that the question?
Yes, we sent through a letter
Yes.
and through verbal requests as well.
And as I told you in committee, and I've told you personally, that on those days we did not do invited testimony, but I didn't say we wouldn't do a separate day.
Okay. But to be clear, so this plan has come to the floor without the members of the committee or the body having the benefit of expert testimony.
Okay. Just to suggest, if you could move back, because you're cracking up on the question. So could you repeat it again?
My question, Representative Hunter, is to be clear, the members of the redistricting committee and by extension the members of the House are now considering House Bill 1 without the benefit of expert testimony on this bill and on the redistricting process. Is that correct?
That is not correct, because I don't know what you mean by an expert testimony. Did we have designation of invited? I've just explained that. What you determine as an expert, I determine, or whoever testified, I don't know. So I am going to disagree with the global term of expert testimony.
And I define expert as lawyers that have been brought forward by groups such as the NAACP, the Legislative Black Caucus, MALDEF, others. They did not have the opportunity to testify on an invited basis and therefore not be subject to 3-minute time limits. But I'll move on. Why did we not hear from resource witnesses at any stage in the process on the bill? We were not able to hear from the Texas Legislative Council, the Attorney General's office, or the Secretary of State's office on the bill. Why was that decision made, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I respectfully disagree, Chairman Turner. Number one, first on the question that you said you'd move on. Anyone could come to testify. Anybody could have gone under the House rules on the portal. And I want the body to know I told you specifically about the portal. And I suggested that all those groups under the House rules, now that there are 3 methods to testify, and by the way, this body used all 3. And I suggested that invited what you call expert, lawyers, whoever, could at any time turn in portal testimony. They could turn in, several of your groups said that they would send us by email, which we would provide to the committee. So I don't want to say that anybody was prevented. Then your question that you asked about no experts. Number one, I cannot answer that because I don't know who virtually and who in person considered them an expert. In addition, they had the portal, and I don't know if certain individuals submitted things on behalf of others. But let's take the lawyers. My question is, all lawyers could turn in information to the portal. And if you remember, I believe it was you or one of the other members asked for the portal to be extended so that more information could be provided, which we did on the committee's request.
Right. And as
I may disagree with you on terminology,
Okay.
but that's how I understood it.
But to be clear, we did not hear from a agency resource witness on this bill. Yes or no?
I think we've had an agency resource at the hearing, at one of the hearings we listed, but anybody on the committee, Ledge Council is open to all the legislators. They don't have to come to the committee for you or any House member. In fact, I know where Ledge Council has come to representative offices. I know where people have gone to meet with them. So I don't think there's any speed bump there.
Sure.
The members themselves have been encouraged to talk to everybody, and there was no prevention. So as your question, did I have them since the bill was filed? I don't think we did. Were they encouraged, everybody encouraged to talk to the resource groups? The answer is yes. There's nothing that prevents people to talk to these groups.
All right, Mr. Chairman, my last question, because I know others have questions. You, in the committee process, when you laid out the bill, you limited the layout to 1 hour. And you said that there would be opportunity to ask questions on the floor. That opportunity has been limited by the objection to the extension of time earlier by Mr. Vasut. You also encouraged us to send you questions in writing. I have not yet received an answer to my questions in writing. When can I expect an answer to those questions we submitted in writing the day of the hearing?
Okay. First, in connection, I believe, I may be mistaken, but I think 2 to 3 of you have provided us written information. I told you that I would get your response. I did not give you a deadline, but you will be, and it will be sooner than later. That information, yes, will be complied, and yes, it is acknowledged. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Ranchia, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for questions, please?
The gentleman yield for
Yes.
questions.